Hello and welcome to the 7 o'clock evening news. I'm John Shelton. We begin with the main headlines. President Obama authorises 1,500 troops to be sent to Iraq in non-combat roles in the fight against IS, doubling the US presence. International community welcomes forming the new Yemeni cabinet in an effort to defuse mounting political tensions. Iran's enriched uranium gas grows before 6 world powers' deadline to resolve Tehran's atomic activities. Countries of Asia and the Pacific region agree on a Chinese-led initiative to set up a network to share information on corruption. US officials said President Barack Obama has approved sending up to 1,500 more troops to Iraq, roughly doubling the number of US forces on the ground to advise and retrain Iraqis in their battle against the IS militant group. Obama's decision greatly expands the scope of the US campaign and the geographic distribution of American forces, some of whom will head into Iraq's fiercely contested western Anbar province for the first time to act as advisors. Canada launches its first airstrikes against the so-called Islamic State in Iraq to join a US-led campaign of airstrikes that has been hitting IS positions since early August in a bid to help Iraqi and Syrian rebels gain ground against the terror group and buy time to improve the fighting capabilities of the Iraqi forces. About 630 of the new troops will advise and assist Iraqi forces, while 870 will help train Iraqi forces and Kurdish Peshmerga fighters. Police and medical sources said car bombs killed 12 people in the Iraqi capital and the city of Ramadi to the west today. A police source said 2 car bombs exploded in separate attacks in Baghdad's mainly Amil district. The source added, describing one of the attacks, a driver parked his car and went to a cigarette stall, then he disappeared. Then his car blew up, killing passers-by. The Palestinian leadership reaffirms its readiness to resume peace negotiations with Israel under American patronage, along with its diplomatic campaign at the United Nations, despite the continued Israeli provocations, particularly in Jerusalem, where extremist settler groups plan new incursions into Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. More in this report by Fatma Abdul Karim from Ramallah.
Along with the heightening tension in Jerusalem and the West Bank, the Palestinian diplomatic campaign at the United Nations corridors heightens as well, with the Palestinian decision to head to the Security Council and more international organizations as soon as possible. However, this is not the only decision the Palestinian leadership is ready to take. President Abbas told his PLO officials in a special meeting today that he is ready to take a new step into negotiations brokered by the US to end the Israeli occupation on territories occupied in 1967.
So far, the recent communique with the US administration didn't yet yield a full plan, so we are still trying to find an open horizon for the peace process. But we are also resorting to the Security Council to issue a resolution that will end the occupation on 1967 borders within a definite time frame.
The explosive situation in Jerusalem threatens to escalate further, with more incursion plans by extremist settlers being underway, according to analysts. The Palestinians believe Israel is trying to pave the way to the time and space division of the Holy Aqsa Mosque between Muslims and Jews, which is a threat the Palestinian Authority has been warning from and calling for international community to step in to save the situation further deterioration. Nevertheless, the situation continues to boil without serious interventions.
All these Israeli measures that are being implemented in Jerusalem is simply to try to settle the account of Jerusalem on the ground and not on the negotiating table. The Israelis have a program for the full Judaization of Jerusalem. From our side, we are taking the issue to the United Nations. We appeal to the Arab Muslim countries to take the issue of Jerusalem seriously, because what Israel is also intending to do is to divide Al-Aqsa Mosque, time-wise, space-wise.
The Palestinian leadership finds itself at a new crossroads again, seeking international political support at the United Nations Security Council and at the table of negotiations, in the fear with more turbulences on the ground. Fatma Abdul Karim, Kuwait TV, Ramallah, Palestine.
US Secretary of State said today that there was no link between talks on Iran's nuclear program and other issues in the has already rejected a proposal by Iranian officials in which would cooperate in the fight against IS forces in exchange for flexibility on its nuclear program. Meanwhile, Kerry declined to comment on reports that the President has sent a letter to Iran's leader about combating. The new US Senate is likely to be skeptical of any Obama deal with Iran. The US President and Kerry are keen to avoid the impression they're making trade-offs as part of the nuclear deal. A new cabinet has been formed in Yemen yesterday in an effort to defuse mounting political tensions. Yemen announced a new 36-member government aimed at ending the political crisis in line with a peace deal agreed on September the 21st, the day Houthis seized the capital. The move came as the UN imposed sanctions on Yemen's former president and two leading Houthis. Members of the Security Council said that ex-President Ali Abdullah Saleh and the two rebel commanders had threatened the stability of the country. In a unanimous decision, the 15-member council ordered that the trio be subject to an acid freeze and global travel ban. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon welcomed the announcement of the formation of the new Peace and National Partnership government in Yemen. UN Chief congratulated the Yemeni President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi and Prime Minister-designate Khaled Baha for their leadership during this process. Ban commended the parties for their pledge to accept the slate decided on by the President and Prime Minister and to extend their unwavering support to the new government. Meanwhile, the US also lauded Yemen's leadership and reaffirmed its commitment to the country following the formation of a new government. UN atomic inspectors noted today that Iran's stockpile of low-enriched uranium gas has grown by 8% to nearly 8.4 tons in about 2 months, an amount world powers probably will want to see cut under any nuclear deal with Tehran. The International Atomic Energy Agency issued a confidential report on Iran to IAEA member states less than 3 weeks before November 24th deadline for Iran and 6 world powers to resolve their standoff over Tehran's atomic activities. Iran and the 6 states will meet in Vienna from November 18th to try to seal a long-term agreement to end a dispute that over the last decade has often raised fears of a new Middle East war. Countries of Asia and the Pacific region have agreed to set up a network to share information on corruption. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, members said that the purpose of the agreement proposed by China was to deny safe haven to anyone engaged in corruption. It comes amid efforts by Chinese President Xi Jinping to clamp down on corrupt officials, including those who try to escape abroad. APEC leaders are expected to back the deal at a summit in Beijing next week. US Secretary of State John Kerry hailed the move as a major step forward. President Barack Obama intends to nominate the federal prosecutor in Brooklyn to become the next Attorney General and the first black woman to lead the Justice Department. Obama's spokesman said that he will announce his selection of Loretta Lynch from the White House on Saturday. She would replace Eric Holder, who announced his resignation in September. If confirmed by the Senate, Lynch would be Obama's second trailblazing pick for the post after Holder served as the nation's first black Attorney General. Lynch, 55, is the U.S. Attorney for Eastern New York, which covers Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island and Long Island, a position she also held under President Bill Clinton. China and Japan reached an agreement in Beijing on improving bilateral ties ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC Leaders Summit next week. The agreement was made following a meeting between the foreign affairs delegations of the two countries. China and Japan also agreed to overcome political difficulties and recognize the tensions in the waters of the East China Sea and Senkaku Islands, sharing the view that through dialogue and consultation they could prevent the situation from deteriorating. Both sides also agreed to gradually resume political and diplomatic dialogue. Beijing and Tokyo pledged to continue to develop a mutually beneficial relationship based on common strategic interests and stand by agreements signed when diplomatic relations were normalized in 1972. Business and Professional Women Network recently hosted their monthly meeting in collaboration with the Arab Planning Institute. BPWN Kuwait aims to assist the development of economic structures, strengthen small businesses and increase the rights of women to participation in these endeavours. Reporter Badria Al-Salah brings us this story.
The Business and Professional Women Network, BPWN Kuwait, recently held a meeting in collaboration with the Arab Planning Institute in Shueikh. BPWN Kuwait seeks to encourage and promote female business owners and professionals in helping them expand their objectives and assist those new to the field.
Today we are at the Arab Planning Institute. We came as the Business and Professional Women Network in Kuwait. We are having a joint event where we will speak about our club, our organization, and how we established and our goal to empower women and promote women's success. And also we promote small business and entrepreneurship. And here at the Arab Planning Institute, they have a department for small business. So we thought it's a good idea to join our efforts and promote this concept of small business and entrepreneurship.
It's very important to know what's updates and what support the women in our society and what support our businesses. Any update rules, policies, procedures, especially now the governments, they are working very hard to support the women and the small business in Kuwait because they are the future for this country.
The crucial role of women in economic development is a global phenomenon. The World Bank 2012 Gender Inequality and Development Report demonstrates that while gaps remain, women have an ever-increasing role in jobs and business creation, as well as consumer economic activity across every industry.
Kuwait recently, actually not just recently, from the old age, the Kuwaiti women have been very successful in managing from the household and the business and in professional. So we have Kuwaiti women having different positions successfully as doctors, engineers, and now we have many good examples of Kuwaiti businesswomen who have their own companies or at the board member of big companies.
Through hosting monthly workshops and networking functions, BPWN Kuwait aspires to prepare and inspire female professionals and entrepreneurs in Kuwait by sharing their expertise. At the Arab Planning Institute, I'm Badria Saleh reporting for the English News.
Top African business leaders have established an emergency fund to help countries hit by the Ebola outbreak. A pledging meeting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, raised $28.5 million to deploy at least 1,000 health workers to Guinea, Sierra Leone and Liberia. Speaking at the end of the Addis Ababa meeting, African Union Chairman Dlamini Zuma said the resources mobilized would be part of a long-term program to deal with such outbreaks in the future. Experts say that if the disease is to be speedily contained, it needs to be tackled in these three countries. Nearly 5,000 people out of about 14,000 cases have been killed by the virus, most of them in Liberia. The Embassy of Canada recently hosted the 9th annual Edu-Canada Middle East and North of Africa MENA tour, composed of approximately 20 leading Canadian universities and colleges. Representatives from the institutions met with students and parents, providing information about study opportunities in Canada. More on this with our reporter Genwa Jabouri.
Education throughout Canada is known for its supreme quality. Canadian universities enjoy a solid reputation for being one of the leaders in higher education, offering students a multitude of opportunities, from the great living standards Canada has to offer to the cutting-edge research, state-of-the-art campuses, and professional and personal experience that lasts a lifetime.
Most of the universities are very aware and they try to predict like what's the next big thing.
So they're always thinking ahead, reassessing their programs, making changes. When computers and everything first became popular, they start implementing computer engineering instead of just electrical. So they're always looking ahead, adapting their programs, updating courses. We know that that's the only way for Canada and many countries in the world to stay ahead of the game. We have to be on top of the latest innovations, and we put a big emphasis on that with our universities.
I think that the best gift any person could give themselves is a gift of education, and certainly an internationalized education is just the absolute best gift you could give yourself. It gives you a global worldview, it gives you an open mind, and it gives you a quality education if you come to Canada in particular. We have a public university system in Canada which really is a benefit to all international students as well as of course Canadians, because you're really guaranteed a high quality of education if you come to Canada. So we certainly welcome international students. It's an open society and welcoming to all people from around the world, and certainly very multicultural. The University of Manitoba in particular has a lot of great things to offer. We have over 100 programs, and certainly starting at the undergraduate level is a great way to get your foot in the door and start your education right with an international experience.
Canada is home to a safe, multicultural, vibrant society and a dynamic 21st century economy. With almost all of the world's ethnic groups represented in Canada, students interact with many different cultures.
Kuwait now is opened on Canadian universities, and it is important to say that the quality of education in Canadian universities and Canadian schools is the best in the world. And we recommend the Kuwaiti students to attend these kinds of universities. And we would like to encourage the scholarship student to go to the different fields and different majors in the Canadian universities.
The enthusiasm shown by international students for post-secondary studies in Canada gives testimony to the superior quality of the Canadian education system.
Canada is known for its quality education, while it offers its students a safe living environment with a multicultural, vibrant society. Therefore, students seeking quality education with great benefits, Canada is the place to be. From the Marina Hotel, I'm Genwa Jaburi reporting to you for the English News.
For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. That's all our news for now. We have a next update at 11 o'clock this evening. Before we end, here's a quick reminder of today's headlines. President Obama authorises 1,500 troops to be sent to Iraq in non-combat roles in the fight against IS, doubling the US presence. International community welcomes forming the new Yemeni cabinet in an effort to defuse mounting political tensions. Iran's enriched uranium gas grows before 6 world powers' deadline to resolve Tehran's atomic activities. And countries of Asia and the Pacific region agree on a Chinese-led initiative to set up a network to share information on corruption.